Hello, welcome to another Roma Press live stream right after the derby della Capitale between Roma and Lazio in what was a quite uneventful evening, you might say, as Roma and Lazio end up with a scoreless draw on their hands. 0-0, a result which I don't think does much for either side. It To an extent, the result does tell a pretty obvious story, a story of two teams that, in my eyes, did the bare minimum to hang on and not risk defeat. A defeat for either side, I think, in these circumstances, would have been fatal. Both Roma and Lazio, obviously, were coming off a pretty inconsistent start to the season. Lazio obviously had won their last game against Feyenoord in the Champions League, and Roma, well, we all know what Roma did on Thursday night against Slavia Praha. So tonight, you might say, was the game of two misfits, of two teams that are trying to hang on to the top spots in the league table, trying to actually make that breakthrough, which they haven't yet made. Roma nor Lazio really have been any threat to the real top teams in the league, such as Milan and Inter and Juve. I'm not mentioning Napoli because they're actually having a meltdown right now with Rudy Garcia, our beloved Rudy Garcia, literally a step away from getting sacked by Aurelio De Laurentiis, who is said to have broken into the team's locker room today at halftime against Empoli and some awful things. So I don't like Rudy Garcia as a coach, but he's an okay person, and I'm just sorry that he's found himself in this situation. But it's pretty impressive that within 3 months he's managed to absolutely demolish any signs of life from Napoli side that won with 20 points differential the Scudetto. So that was quite a feat. But getting back to Roma, Roma are entering this international break with I don't know. It depends on how you look at it. I think the team will be, to an extent, satisfied because it it felt it felt like it was. I mean, it was pretty evident that both teams were just looking for the safest option, right, to enter this international break without a fuss, without too much noise, without too much scandal, without too much pain and suffering. So we saw a Roma team that should have had perhaps a more um, a more eventful evening, a more determined evening. After the result on Thursday night in Prague, instead the team, I think, opened up the match with a decent effort. You look at what they tried to do in the opening 20 minutes of the match, and they showed signs of life with Karsdorp on that shot. You had Romelu Lukaku with a header. So the effort, it seemed like, it was there. The aftertaste of this match leaves you leaves you guessing as to what this team really is all about. We got So I'm gonna start reading off the comments. I want this live stream to be about you guys. Like every live stream, I want engagement. I understand for some it may be quite late. For some, it may be quite early. Some may not feel motivated after tonight's result. I absolutely get it, guys. I just came off recording a podcast about it, so it's not it's not exactly a thriller. It's not exactly The Departed by Martin Scorsese, but you have to get through it because this is Roma. So please, if you have any questions, any talking points, any criticism, any thoughts regarding the match, the team, what awaits them, what Roma will be looking at after the international break and heading into a really difficult stretch. Whatever you are thinking right now, put it down into the comments and I'll be reading them off. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, this is your chance to do it. If you haven't liked this video yet, please click on the like button. Really, like it really helps, so that we get more people in, and that's always fun. And if you would like to support the show or support the website romapress.net, you can become a patron, and you can even just by sending us $1 a month, you will be helping us plenty. So let's get to the comments. We got Richard from New Mexico, our good old Richard. Today I did not need CPR or a brown bag for hyperventilating. The intensity of the boys was good. Wish we had three. We wish we had the three, but one is well deserved. Yes, Richard, you can say it was it was a contested point, right? Both teams aimed for it. I really don't believe that going into the second half, because first half okay, but going into the second half, I, I never got the feeling that either side aimed to win the match. Lazio openly admitted, like Lazio players such as Romagnoli and I think Marusic, no, Lazzari, I think, openly admitted to being super tired in the second half. They both said that the team just fell off physically and they were afraid to lose the game. And that's what if there is one thing I take issue with tonight is that Roma could have had the chance of a lifetime in the second half when Lazio dropped in fitness levels like drastically, and instead of putting the foot on the pedal, Roma just sort of sat back and I think played hard enough to earn that 1 point, but not go beyond what was theoretically being asked of them in that instance. Salve from Sweden. What did you think of Lukaku? Well, I said it on the podcast. I think it's always worrying when you have an attack composed of Paulo Dybala and Romelu Lukaku, and yet you have, I think, one or two shots on goal. Romelu Lukaku had didn't have a single shot on target. I think he had two shots. Both of them were off target. And I think that says a lot. And not only about today, this, and Paulo Dybala, similarly, Paulo Dybala, once again, very difficult to find on the pitch. Obviously his contribution goes beyond goals, goes beyond assists due to his technical ability, his quality. But it's, for me, it never sits right when, if you have Paulo Dybala and Romelu Lukaku on the pitch together at the same time, you cannot close the game with 0 goals scored first and foremost, but then even worse with almost no shots on target. That I think addresses a larger issue, not only just match related. I think it taps into the whole discourse of what's wrong with this Roma. Why are they? Yes, they are. On one hand, they are scoring a lot more than last season, but at the same time, they're creating a lot less than last season. So it seems like we can't have one without. It's always, we have this. We can score, but we don't create. We create, but we don't score. What is the attacking plan? Attacking from the flanks, through the middle, overlaps, counterattacks, tiki-taka. I haven't really seen a clear game plan to try and score. Well, in theory, right, 3-5-2 should emphasize the fullbacks, right, the wing backs. And I think tonight, in my opinion, Leonardo Spinazzola, who was coming off a brief stretch of injury, so he was out, I think, the last 4 games. He was one of our best players tonight. And yet we still find ourselves in a position where, yes, Romelu Lukaku should not have only 2 shots on goal. He should have at least 5, right? 3 of which should be goals, right? No, but in all seriousness, to me, the one thing that I can clearly state from my personal point of view about this match tonight is that 0-0 shows not only what the two teams have played for, but also the shortcomings of the two teams. Lazio have a clear goal scoring problem this season. A team that was cruising, flying over the years. Ciro Immobile scoring left and right. Right now, they can't do anything. And Roma, on the other hand, they can't create anything. They score, but they can't create. Hey, Mazin, good to see you, man. Francesco Coco on our local TV mentioned on our local TV that Mourinho should have finished Lazio, who were gassed out with 25 minutes to go, yet he kept the lackluster Spina and all the attacking options. Well, guess what? I just said I liked Spina. Well, that's how the world works. But I do agree that it felt in the second half that there was no urgency, that there was the plan was sit tight, sit tight, don't risk it, and that goes for both teams. Lazio also did the same. Lazio were gassed, they were tired, and they were not looking to risk anything. But I do agree that you could have made the better, a better you could have taken advantage of that particular situation with for example, Stefan El Shaarawy coming earlier on, or Azmoun coming earlier on. Just put your foot on the pedal and take it to the next level and try to put the pressure on Lazio. Lazio never felt the pressure that they should have felt in that position. In the derby, the pressure is on, the fans are chanting. I mean, the Roma fans were unbelievable. For this to be an away game, they were unbelievable. And yet Lazio, it seemed like they felt pretty safe, despite knowing that it was not enough for them. Paul said, we were the better team for most of the second half. Lukaku is not a big game player, should have taken him off at 60 minutes. Well, I think this Roma team cannot afford not to have Lukaku up there. If there's one occasion, if there's one clear chance, Lukaku's taking it. And was saddened by Mourinho's lack of substitution. 10 minutes for anyone coming on isn't enough. When he starts making the substitutions at the 80th minute, I think that just goes to show that he was looking, this is the game that he was waiting for. This was a result that both managers settled for. Maurizio Sarri, even after the game, he said he's satisfied, and Mourinho, well, perhaps not satisfied, but he said, we aim to win, but a point is still a good point. So Lazio fans looked like they had lost the Scudetto after the game, way more depressed than us. That might be because they have to get up early to milk the sheep tomorrow. Wow, Paul, yeah, spoken like a true Romanista who attends the games. Paul, our good patron who goes to the Stadio Olimpico almost every time. So great to have some insight. Immobile is done. It's weird. He's not been called up by Italy, and a guy who's been. He's won the top Serie A goal scorer 2-3 times in the last few years, and right now he can't catch a break. And Lazio overall, they're just very similar to us in terms of how the team is not functioning consistently. Yeah, they have other issues, but more or less, I mean, these two teams have faced similar problems. I like that Bove was pushed higher up the field to play closer to Dybala and Lukaku. I also thought there were really good stretches where Roma pressed effectively. Yeah, without a doubt. I like Bove. It's a shame that he had to come off, but apparently he had cramps. I think, listen, because when I made the comment that Bove can't score, he went on and scored, right? It was against Slavia Praha. I still maintain that he's not the kind of player that you need in order to have, to be of a threat to your opponent. I don't think he's that kind of midfielder who will go on scoring runs throughout the season. But he's definitely a player who always puts the necessary effort and also is very good at pressuring in tight spaces. He's very fast, moves very fast, and is always able to get at the opponent when the rest of the team perhaps is not reading the situation the way he does. He looks for the right moment to strike. And no matter who, if he's attacking the opposition's backline or if he's attacking an opponent midfielder, he's going at it. We got Nino. Buonasera, Andy. I thought, especially after the performance against Slavia, they really gave it a shot. I think Mourinho was lacking in terms of subs, and also Dybala seemed a bit off. And with Dybala, that always is an issue for me because the team is very dependent on him, right? And Mourinho, even when he's off, he has to keep him out there for 80 minutes because you just can't find somebody with the matching quality. It's a shame we couldn't see Pellegrini tonight. I really think that if there is a solution to some problems, it could be an informed Pellegrini. Because Dybala right now is off. And he's gone now for international duty. So for 2 weeks, you will not see Dybala. And let's see what happens on international duty. Obviously, knock on wood. Hopefully, no injuries. But perhaps this could be the right moment for Pellegrini to get back into his mojo, work closely with Mourinho over this period of time, and find a way to contribute to this team meaningfully. Because if you can unlock at least one player who reads between the lines, who finds the right space, and is able to give those clean looks to somebody like Romelu Lukaku, then you got it. It's not. We are not talking about quantum physics. I mean, this is a clear problem with a clear solution. Roma are not creating enough. Most of the time, they're very stagnant. It almost seems like that philosophy of sitting back and counter-attacking has sagged all the excitement out of some of the players. And with somebody like Pellegrini, if healthy, with that pace, with that vision, I think that could really help you. So hopefully that's the case after the international break. Mourinho's substitutions were too late, which is a shame since he's been really good with subs as of late. Yeah, tonight it almost sent the message of, guess what? We're not taking it home. Let's just worry about the draw. Whatever happens. We keep the draw. We're happy, right? And that applies to Maurizio Sarri as well. He was very satisfied. He was very happy with how the game turned out to be, and I think that also was the case with Rui Patricio. Good save. Romagnoli, right? Rui Patricio has been decent. Not many people have been talking about it, but he's been decent. So at least there's that. At least we can look to a goalkeeper that doesn't concede the unthinkable. We didn't get beaten and no players got injured, which for Roma is a big deal. Yeah, absolutely, Simon. That has to count for something, and I definitely see that as a possibility for in terms of how Roma are thinking. Right, like they are thinking, well, this is it. If you can get the 3 points, at least get a clean sheet and get everybody healthy. And I think for Mourinho, especially going into this international break, he will be able to work with Pellegrini and Renato Sanchez. Now, I think those are two guys that, in his mind, in his eyes, they can be, I will not say the saviors of Roma, but definitely the difference makers. He keeps talking about Sanchez like some sort of miracle in the waiting. Even today, he said, he's played a few games here and there, small cameos, but if he is healthy, he can be special for us. So let's hope that we can solve his injury issues. I mean, it's far from granted, right? Especially with that kind of injury history, with the way Sanchez has responded to Mourinho trying to involve him in more in the team. Up until that injury, the last injury against Sharif, it almost seemed like, yes, that was the way, right, to give him 45 minutes here, for 45 minutes there, and then slowly but surely build up his confidence. Now, he's been back. He's made 3 minor appearances in the last few games against Lecce, Slavia Praha, and today. And I think now the plan for Mourinho is going to be with his medical staff, with his training staff, to focus on getting Lorenzo Pellegrini and Renato Sanchez. I wouldn't say to 100% because that is far from, I think, far from attainable with these 2 players, since their predisposition to get hurt all the time. But at least to 80%, and already there you can start hoping that you can really make a difference after the international break. So we didn't get beaten. Okay, yeah. I wish this was a game we got to see more of Renato. Yeah. How many players stay at Trigoria for the international break? Well, this is very easy because you can almost count them on one hand. So obviously we have Smalling, who's injured, but we're not counting Smalling because he died. You're going to have Diego Llorente, Gianluca Mancini, who's not been called up with Italy. You're going to have Lorenzo Pellegrini, Renato Sanchez. You're going to have, well, obviously, Miles Villar. You're going to have Leonardo Spinazzola, another good addition because he needs the minutes. He needs the time. He needs to work after these last few injuries. You're going to have Andrea Belotti. You're going to have Rick Karsdorp. So we got 8 players. Is that all? Zaleski has been called up. Houssem Aouar has been called up. Evan Dika has been called up. Paredes, Dybala, Lukaku called up. Cristante, El Shaarawy called up. El Shaarawy as well. So yeah, Mourinho is going to have 8 players at his disposal. Not bad. There've been and Azmoun, or not, or maybe not. Don't quote me on it. Anyway, 8 players for sure. So it's not too bad. There have been cases where he had like 4 of them. So, so I think that can mean something with, especially just Lorenzo Pellegrini and Renato Sanchez. I think both back in group training. Renato Sanchez has already featured in these last 3 games, and Pellegrini is just waiting for that moment to happen. And hopefully we can have something going soon, because you need that spark at some moment in time. That spark has to come from somewhere. Houssem Aouar has been unable to give us that spark. Paulo Dybala himself has been, for the most part, unable to give us that spark. So it has to come from somewhere. The fire must start from somewhere. It's unlike that Billy Joel song, "We didn't start the fire." Well, we have to start the fire. It's us. We have to start the fire. We got lucky that most of the teams like Napoli, Milan, Atalanta lost or drew as well. Well, lucky, yes, and also unfortunate that we were not able to take advantage of it. Right? It's quite frustrating because very often it just coincides. When those teams make make a false step, Roma are unable to take that leap. And it's always about the next time it happens, the next time, and so on and so on. But in the meantime, you're almost never able to make that leap forward, that leap that we are all waiting for. I think really the day that you learn to take advantage of those occasions is when Roma truly become a serious contender for top 4. Because that's what you do when you're aiming for top 4 and beyond. You learn to read the situations, you learn to read the moment. And had this team really had that mindset of winning in that second half, because in the first half I definitely see a Roma that is hungry, that is eager to please the fans that are supporting them. But in the second half I didn't feel that urgency. And this is not a big criticism. It's reasonable. The team, I think, to a degree, was kind of shaken up by the result in Prague, and what Mourinho probably told them in the dressing room. So I don't blame them for the attitude in the second half, but it's a shame because there could have been something there. And given how the other teams have fared this weekend, this could have been one of those moments that you look back on and say, "Oh, yeah, that's when it happened. That's when we did well, right?" Um, okay, let me get my phone out because I see that people are checking. That people are asking me what the next opponents are after the break, and I'm so well prepared. The Roma Press research team is already doing so. Next opponents, next five opponents, we got Udinese, then we got Servette in the Europa League, which you have to win. Then you have Sassuolo, Fiorentina. So far so good, right? So far so good. Then Sheriff, and then quick a quick three I mean 3 games, really difficult games within a span of 2 weeks. Obviously, right during the Christmas period. Obviously, you can. So we got Bologna 17 December 23rd. We got Napoli, and 30th we got Juventus. So that's going to be a challenge, but that's what we said. The opening to the season was the schedule was very very friendly, and we all know how it went. So we can't you can't look back in anger, quoting obviously the Gallagher brothers, but we have to move on. We have to look forward. But it's important that somewhere along the way, the plan B, the plan C, the alternatives, the spark, those other contributions, they have to come from somewhere. Lukaku is not going to save you time and time again. Asmoon will not save you time and time again. And this team, I still think they're not hopeless. They're not hopeless. They hurt me by losing to Slavia. They really did hurt my feelings. They made me doubt them. They made me lose faith in them for this match. But like Mourinho, I still think that when we're talking about Roma, we're talking about a team that has never really stepped foot on the pitch with its complete squad. So it's very difficult to actually get a clear picture of what they're all about. What I take issue with is that what I've been seeing over the last few months has not been good enough. And too many times I've seen this team unable to address the issues that have been plaguing them. And Mourinho, I'm pretty sure, is well aware of this. Only 3 points for fourth place, all things considered, not bad, Philip. Yeah, well, we're lucky. We're lucky. We have to consider ourselves lucky. We have to think that Serie A is very competitive, but to the point that even the supposed top teams are vulnerable. That's how competitive it is. I hope Dybala comes back from Argentina with both legs. Yeah, well, and also Leandro Paredes. You cannot underestimate Paredes' importance, at least in Mourinho's eyes. Losing Paredes would be pretty detrimental to the whole structure of the team. Have to win 2-3 of Juve, Napoli, and Fiorentina because of how shit we were at the start. Yeah, definitely. That is. If you lose 3 games in December, then I would say the season is kaput unless another miracle occurs and I don't know, Milan continue to commit suicide after suicide, and Napoli are unable to react. We'll see how that goes. Whoever comes to Napoli, because I mean, Rudy Garcia's time there is coming to an end. So we might be looking at a completely different table from now. So Mourinho needs to be bold. Stop being overcautious. It's concerning that year one Tammy was great, and when Dybala joined in year two, Dybala was great, Tammy was poor. Year three, Lukaku great, Dybala poor. Yeah, that's what we said. It feels like there's always somebody that is incompatible with another one. Remember, first year, Dybala, Tammy, well, no, Dybala is not. Okay, sorry. Tammy and Pellegrini, that's what I meant, are clicking. Yet at the same time, Zaniolo's not clicking, right? And then year two, we got Tammy, who's unable to score anything, Pellegrini, who's unable to produce anything, and Dybala is clicking. And right now, Lukaku is clicking, but he's clicking better with Belotti on the pitch. Although Dybala is still a difference maker, and his importance can be seen even in that game against Lecce, where apparently, his performance objectively is bad, and yet in the moment that where it matters, where the team actually scores the ball in the final minutes, he's always there, and the ball always goes through him first. Anthony, Roma had it set all up this weekend. Napoli debacle, AC Milan below a 2-goal lead. Atalanta barely draw, Bologna lose, and then their 10-game unbeaten streak. It was there for the taking tonight. How many times have we said this, Anthony? Too many times. But that's as I continue to maintain. It's a matter of mentality. That is a matter of mentality. I think we are seeing with Juve, we're seeing the importance of when you have enough time to let one game go and think about the next one, right? Because Massimiliano Allegri with Juve is doing the bare minimum to be where he is right now, which is second in the league. It's unbelievable, but that's the way it is. They're playing one game per week, and that allows them to just mentally, unload, let it sit, think about the next game, and then you give yourself enough time. Roma are not in that privileged position where the privileged position was not so privileged a few months ago when the UEFA ruling came, and it didn't look good for Juve. So this is a situation that they started off with them having a pretty terrible year with everything that went on behind the scenes. But Roma are not in that situation. Roma have to be able to move from one competition to the other without that affecting their performance to this extent. And yet, this is year 3 of Mourinho. We're still competing on two fronts, and yet at some point in time, it goes from one extreme to the other, and we never seem to find a middle ground. So I think until the day, the day that we find that middle ground is the day that we're able to make that leap, right? And exactly take advantage of when opponents are dropping points left and right. Seems like every Roma game is a fucking battle. Newbie of a Roma fan, 2019, but it feels like in dog years it would be 28 years. Yeah, well, Richard, 2019. So you came in when Fonseca came in. So you started following the team with Fonseca. Yeah, that's rough. That's rough because that's arguably the messiest time period for Roma, right? Monchi walks away, Di Francesco fired, then Fonseca, his 2 years are very on and off. So definitely it's been a busy period, and I think that's why you have to look at this and take this with a grain of salt. It's okay. We're relatively doing okay. I think a lot of us expected more from this team right now. I certainly did. I thought with the Europa League final, this team would have something to prove. They would be playing with some sort of venom, with some sort of attitude that they haven't shown me right now. And I think that's if there is a concerning aspect of the start of the season, it's not even we conceding goals, not creating enough. It's the attitude. It's the attitude of a team that I think I imagined. I alluded myself they would know exactly what to do on the pitch, and yet they're still figuring things out. And that doesn't sit right with me, and so that goes from top to bottom, from manager to players. It's this push and pull effect that never really makes you feel like you know exactly that the team knows exactly what it needs to do on the pitch. Too many times we see them go from looking alert to looking like they're about to fall asleep, or looking like they've never seen each other in their life. Um, News is breaking that Garcia has been sacked by Napoli. Let's see. But yes, this is a matter of hours. Garcia was basically sacked by Napoli at halftime against Empoli, with De Laurentiis walking into the dressing room and basically taking over. And when a club president does it, it's never good. Right now, no. Right now, it's still not official. So, um, yeah, it's just, I mean, it's just a matter of hours, and then it's probably gonna be Igor Tudor, apparently. So that's in Napoli, and they still end up with a pretty okay coach for given the circumstances right now. That's it's a better deal than say Mazzarri. So no, but the Roma have to focus on themselves. I think tonight was the clear example of two teams, Napoli and Lazio and Roma. Well, color wise, Napoli and Lazio are pretty similar, but um, two teams who are so afraid of the circumstances, are so afraid of the pressure from the crowd, the headlines, the things I was afraid of, right? When I came on here, what was it, the other day, and yesterday, and talked about the derby, I was terrified of what a loss would imply for given the international break. That's the favorite time period for all the terrible storylines, for the transfer rumors, for this, for that. And I think the teams felt exactly that dread, that anticipation of the worst from a media standpoint, from what it could mean also in terms of personnel, like considerations could be made one way or another. um, I think I'm ready for Mourinho to go to Saudi, says one of our viewers. Something is missing from his hard work. I don't fault his commitment, but he's even failing to surprise team. His team is predictable. There is definitely an aspect of the team lacks a clear plan B, a clear alternative. That something is not working, so you find a solution, you switch things up, and you bring on, whoever it is, because Mourinho is fully aware of who the players are. He's highlighted it many, many times that he's not necessarily unhappy with whom he has at his disposal, but still, these are players that can work in a certain context. Well, it's up to a manager, I think, to find that context, right? So say in the second half, the team needs pace, the team is tired. Okay, well, who's the player that gives you pace? El Shaarawy. Okay, well, El Shaarawy, we bring on El Shaarawy. Well, where does El Shaarawy perform best? Does he perform best as a wingback? Is that his position? Is that where you're going to put him to be a difference maker? No. And yet, El Shaarawy, when he comes on, most of the time, he's somewhere either between the defense or in the midfield, and far away from goal. So that's what I'm saying. You have a limited array of solutions, but Roma, it almost seems like they're not utilizing that number of solutions. It's okay. These may not be world class players, but but Frosinone with Di Francesco has been finding a way to overcome some really difficult opponents. Yes, they just lost to Inter, but still, and that is definitely up to the manager. So I do agree that there is something missing in that. It almost feels like Mourinho never goes for the kill with his substitutions. With Lecce, it worked, right? As Moon. But I want to see more of that, of something unorthodox. Switch things up. Constant under Mourinho has been passion. May not always play well, but it is 100%. Bar Bove, Cristante, and Mancini were Bar Bove, Cristante, and Mancini. Yeah, okay, that okay. Okay, sorry. It's just I'm a freak for punctuation. So this was Bar Bove, Cristante, Mancini. Where has the dog gone from this team, man? Um, well, I mean, yes, and but I think that also comes down to a plan. If you lack a plan of action, then where is the passion? If you're half the time you're wondering what the hell you're supposed to do. If you're looking at Leandro Paredes and you're like, wait, are you? Where are you? What are you supposed to do now? Or if you look at Wissam War, and Wissam War is like, je ne pars pas, je ne comprends quoi, baguette, quoi, and nobody knows what the hell's going on. Then you don't even have the time to play with that same aggressive mindset that you may have had a year ago when Roger Ibanez was there, scapegoat, but still, Nemanja Matic knew exactly what to do. The general on the floor, Tammy was Tammy. Tammy was still, I mean, was still calling the shots up front despite missing most of them. So I think it comes down to that. It's a mutual relationship between the attitude and the game plan. Tactics and personnel and the mentality go hand in hand. Roma are missing some really mobile players in attack. Well, was Elsha available? Yes, he was available. He was on the bench. He was available. Like, that's the whole point. But I think they're lacking in attack, and I think that could be partly solved with Pellegrini coming back. If Pellegrini somehow, like, that's one of the things you have to work on. Pellegrini, Dybala together. Hey, man, that's one of the solutions. That's an option. That's an option. That's a player who, on his good day in form, he can give you double digits. He can go out there and drop a Rajon Rondo in terms of assists, in terms of vision, in terms of passing, in terms of seeing through the opponent's defense. That's what Pellegrini does best if he's on, if he's in form, and that's a big if. Should Immobile have been sent off? I don't know. To me, I mean, a derby is a derby. So honestly, especially after a 0-0 draw, I'm really not concerned about these situations. I thought for the most part, it's Massa did relatively okay for given how bad of a referee he is. So it was. I was expecting much worse. And also, this was not a game that was impacted by anything that went on in terms of behavior and discipline and so on. So was Pellegrini available, but may have not been ready? Definitely, Pellegrini was available, but only in theory. Imagine, I mean, the guy had been missing for over a month, right? This is a derby. The intensity, especially in the second half when both teams were very intimidated of each other, very, very fragile, very wary of what could happen, right? If you make a mistake. And I think that's the worst scenario where you bring on a player who hasn't seen the pitch for over a month. Mourinho waiting 80 minutes for his first substitution was insane. Elsha was the obvious option on the bench, but Elsha is the obvious option on the bench if you put him in a position to succeed. Because if Mourinho's thought process was, well, I'm gonna take Spinazzola off and I'm gonna put Elsha on, then there's no point. If you're gonna have Elsha playing 40 meters away from goal, then no, thank you. Then you might as well bring on Miles VR to do that. No, but really, that's what it comes down to. It's all about making the best of the limited options. And I thought Mourinho over his time at Roma seemed to have learned this. And yet it seems like also we're back to square one where he's now, okay, he's not openly admitting it. He's not saying what he said in his first year at Roma, where he basically, called out the whole team, called them crap. On Thursday, he did call them out and question their professionalism, but so he's not questioning their quality, but it almost feels like he's not even trying to experiment a little bit, just a little bit. Give some unpredictability. I see that's most comments are also about that, about the team being predictable. I think the team is flat. It could be fatigue. It could be exactly the insecurity of dropping points, of making a fool out of yourself right after a bad result in the Europa League. But still, it's for a team that has an attack composed of Romelu Lukaku and Paulo Dybala in this league in Italy. A team like that should not be scoring 0 goals on a night like tonight and looking the opposite of dangerous. Looking docile, looking like, somebody's having a walk in the park and not really competing. Asmoon was Dybala's replacement and not Elsha. No, yes, obviously. But we're talking about El Shaarawy, potentially being brought on as a difference maker. Renato seems mentally fragile, great player, but insecure and injury prone. I wonder if the two are interrelated. Well, you don't have to wonder, Rocco. Those two obviously are interrelated. It's only normal if somebody spends so much time in the infirmary more than on the pitch. Whenever you're on the pitch, you question yourself. You doubt whether if you make a sprint here or a movement there, that's gonna be the difference maker and cause you to miss some more time. The clear image was him coming off against Sheriff right after 30 minutes in a non-contact injury, which then turned out not to be a serious injury, and he was actually healed within 2 weeks. But for the next two and a half weeks, he wasn't secure enough to return to group training. Like, that really tells you all you need to know about the kind of player that we are dealing with. And Mourinho knows it. Mourinho knows that Renato Sanchez can be a difference maker for this team. Renato Sanchez is a wonderful player that has certain qualities that none of the other players have, including Paulo Dybala, that he can be the player that takes the ball in front of the defense and then races all the way to the opponent's goal line. And yet there's that something that is keeping him from it, similarly to Lorenzo Pellegrini, two players that on their best days could be ranked along with Romelu Lukaku and Paulo Dybala in terms of their importance for the squad. But unfortunately, we will have to see. This is an experiment, but I think it's an exciting experiment, especially now, given what the stakes are and what awaits Roma. Roma are going into a hellish schedule after this international break, and you have 2 weeks to work individually with Renato Sanchez and Lorenzo Pellegrini, who are back from injury and hopefully back for good. Renato seemed disinterested, given teammates avoided passing to him on several occasions when presenting himself. Well, this is a player who has to reaffirm his position in the team. He has no place in the team. Nobody knows him. He's played perhaps a little over 120 minutes in Serie A. So 120 minutes. That's not a lot. That's not a lot. Definitely not enough to really click. And in a role like his, to make a difference. We really should have found a way to buy Fratesi. Yes, I understand we have a financial fair play issues. Well, yes, but at the same time, it also depends on how the two clubs relate. What Inter were willing to offer, their relationship with Sassuolo, the relationship between Inter and Fratesi's agent, who I believe is Beppe Rizzo, and who is a monster. He's one of those bloodhounds who plague Italian football, really. So, who's doing his job and is doing it perfectly, very well. But in Italian football, everybody is a friend of somebody, right? And so it really depends on that. Fratesi is an awesome player. I would have loved to have him, but again, don't look back in anger. I heard her say, yeah, that's the mentality. So what are we looking at? We're looking at tomorrow morning. Everybody is flying out of Rome to go to international duty. We are left with a handful of players, but I think it's an important handful. Given the moment, you need everybody, whoever it is, you still need them, and it's a chance to work with the likes of Renato Sanchez, Lorenzo Pellegrini, Belotti, Spinazzola. So guys that are definitely in a bit of a slump, or maybe or should be doing much better than they are, and this is the moment. So happy for the point. 3 points from fourth spot being major objective. All things considered, it's not a bad position, right? Like, I think everybody's fully aware of it. Mourinho as well. Mourinho is the first one, but there will have to come a time where you make that leap if you want to achieve your objectives, because this is not good enough. This is not good enough. I want to make that clear before anybody says, "Well, you look, you say you're not hard enough on the thing." Blah blah blah. For me, this is not good enough. Like, when I look at this result, I'm left a bit cold, a bit flat, a bit underwhelmed, because in my eyes, in my mind, after Thursday night, it was obligatory to put on a show for the fans and and demonstrate that you're not that team, that you're not the team that dropped the ball in Prague. Tonight, I didn't feel like we proved anything. Same thing goes for Lazio. It's two teams that just went for it on very friendly terms for a derby. So I think that is my take. I think that is a fair mix of the comments that I saw, the thoughts that I saw in this chat. And I think that's a good place to end it. So Andy didn't mention Bove during the international. Has been called up for the Italian national team. Bove has been called up for the under 21 squad, but we will see. I mean, reportedly came off with cramps. They will run some tests on him. If he's good to go, he'll go on international duty with the under 21 squad. Let's look where we stand after we play all teams once. Yeah, definitely. Hi, Andy. The team worked hard today. They just lacked a bit of quality and a bit of luck and a bit of conviction. I think that's a fair statement, that the team lacked a bit of conviction to really put Lazio to the test in the second half when they could have hurt them. So I think this is a fair place to stop. I think this derby, it wasn't as bad as I probably made it out to be in the episode that we just recorded prior to this live stream. I think, again, right after a match, it's always difficult to sort of get your thoughts aligned. But definitely it was uneventful. Definitely it was not enough for the two teams that really had to show something and instead just settled for the bare minimum. Ultimately, in that second half, it felt like there was a moment came where both Lazio and Roma came to the conclusion, you know what, a point is a fair point, and we'll take it. So I think this is it from me. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe now. This is where all the video episodes of the podcast drop regularly, twice a week, Mondays and Fridays. We will continue to record throughout the international break. We'll try to think of some topics. We'll see what Roma do during the international break, what the news are. In the meantime, if you also like the show, if you like the website, please consider becoming a patron. There is a link in the description down below that says patron. You can go to patreon.com/Roma Press, and you can support the show just by even $1 a month. That makes the world of difference to us. And I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to discuss this quite uneventful derby della Capitale, which ends 0-0. Both teams go home, satisfied, having done the bare minimum to preserve that 1 point. So until next time, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Tomorrow watch this space, we will be dropping the podcast with our reactions to the derby tomorrow in the afternoon Italian time. So until next time, guys, thank you for joining me. Have a lovely rest of the day. Ciao.